Hey, Michelle.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Doing great. Hey, it's March. Time to look at February with another Aculist Market Minute. Let's dive in.
Yes. So we're talking about Santa Clara County.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, February data. And keeping with the format, we're going to try to answer three questions, right? So we're going to look at median prices, take a look back at the trends, what's going on there. We're also going to look at new listings because that affects inventory, and we're going to talk about that because that's been different for 2021. And, we started to see those sale to list price ratios creep up, Mark. So we're going to talk about what your buyers should expect to pay. So
okay, single family and common interest.
Yes,
big little bit of both.
Santa Clara County. Yeah,
okay.
So let's do that. Yeah, so let's start off with median sale price. And
okay, wow.
Like you said, we're going to need a new chart. So a couple of things. We're bringing in a lot more data, and I'm sorry to those who are like, this is too much, but trying to compare 2021, 2020, and 2019. I mean, if I could fit it, I'd probably throw 2018 because, none of these were, quote unquote normal years. We're trying to take a longer look back to say, wow, this number, an all-time high in the single-family market, besting March of 2018, which was 1.454. So, right, we've seen 8% increase over January, 11.5% increase over a year ago, February of 2020. So this is just showing you relatively over the last year, Mark, we've seen tremendous value in, or just prices for sellers in Santa Clara County.
And I think this longer period of time really gives our viewers, things to relate to, but things to translate into their client, right? They can tell a bigger story here.
Yes, because if you compare things to 2019, look at that 2019 chunk, it was kind of low, right? So, this is how you kind of put things in perspective,
right?
Which I think is really important right now because I know buyers and sellers are both wondering what's going on. So you take a look at the cities here, and it got really scratched because there were quite a few cities, right, that had a positive year-over-year change. So while February's can be very strong in Santa Clara County, this February was particularly high. That's how you see that all-time high number. So let's, kind of go down a little bit. San Martin, 2 sales. So we talked about that, not really that helpful in terms of aggregated stats. So 2 sales, keep that in mind. But Los Gatos, I think that's an all-time high price, right? So
wow.
33 sales, which is a year ago there were 17 sales, so it's a potential all-time high price on quite a few sales. In Saratoga also, I think an all-time high. And the reason I say I think is because I go back to 2015, 15, 14, 13 sometimes, and there might have been something before that. It seems unlikely to me, but that's why I kind of have that caveat with maybe.
Right. You never know where there's a one-off back there, in the past, but in general.
In recent memory, right? These are, Morgan Hill, I think, is in that category. Last 2 months have been incredible in Morgan Hill. Los Altos, it looks like an all-time high price, besting that of March of 2019. Cupertino looks to have an all-time high, besting October of 2018, which was 2.574. Mountain View, a 2-year high price. San Jose, I think, was an all-time high price, barely $3,500 over May of 2018. But I mean, Santa Clara County saw a nearly 3-year high. I mean, this is just, the notes go on and on, Mark, because, Palo Alto was not better than last January there. So, but, Palo Alto, January 2020 was the peak. So we're seeing even some of these February's best, some of even the month over month. I don't have that here, but I'm just kind of trying to put things in perspective.
And the numbers are certainly reflective of what we're hearing at the marketing meetings of, multiple offers upon multiple offers, driving prices like this.
Absolutely. And that's how you see just these 2 cities in Santa Clara County decreasing. Los Altos Hills being a bit volatile over the past 5 months. January had 1 sale, December had 11, February had 7. So it's kind of also looking to see how many closed sales are we talking about here. Campbell also volatile over the past few months.
Right.
But last February, that $1.8 million median was the all-time high for the city. So it's trying to best an all-time high, which is, if I do live in Campbell, right? If the agent came to me and said, yeah, that looks down, but here, that was an all-time high price, that kind of puts some things in perspective. So, and
obviously, and you'll show us in a minute, I'm sure, affected by the inventory that's available out there as well.
Absolutely. And the last note for Campbell, February, it makes this February look really low, but it's the highest price in Campbell in 9 months.
Yeah.
Right. So it's actually, anyway,
It's all good, Campbell. Don't worry.
Mark, we're gonna have a heck of a time this year. Really looking back, you have to put all these things together before you can make any.
Exactly.
And here's that common interest that I promised you. So condos and townhomes, and look at that all year over year positive change. The county number was 850,000. So for the median, right, at the county level, that's a third straight month of increase and a nearly 2-year high, right? So we haven't seen it since June of 2019. So a lot of positive change. Saratoga at the top of the list there, third straight month of increased prices. Cupertino's been staying steady, so much higher than the last 2 Februarys. It resembles 2018-ish in Cupertino. Santa Clara, this is common interest, has been volatile. Los Gatos, that's a pretty low price on 13 sales, which is high. So haven't seen that low of a number since December of 2019, but it's still better than last February. I mean, I could go on and on. San Jose, a big drop.
Well, and the interesting part maybe as well, consider that Cupertino and Santa Clara right now have giant condo complexes going in that we don't see on the MLS. We're going to get them in the resale. We don't see all of them, right? So you've got all that common interest activity at the building level, and you've got all this happening in the resale marketplace.
Right. So that lower part of the list, Sunnyvale, Milpitas, San Jose, right? And Santa Clara. So, definitely something to keep in mind now. But let's transition to new listings. And the reason I'm talking new listings, it goes along it's hand in hand with inventory, different stats, but, some of this upward pressure on prices is coming from the fact that we just haven't seen as much inventory. And so again, a 2-year look, because while we're on a 2-month of growth here, as you can see on the right-hand side of the chart, we're at 1,054. You can see on the left-hand side of the chart that 2019 had more inventory.
Yeah, strong.
Right. So, so this is pretty good compared to a year ago, but, still relatively low. This is the time of year we'd expect to be going up. So it's a 12% increase from a year ago, 7% over 2 years ago, but inventory remains really low, right? Up a little bit because of February, but in general, we're just not seeing as much for those buyers to choose from. Now, that doesn't mean that in certain cities it wasn't up, because you can see here that February compared to last February, we see that there was an increase in several cities. Los Altos Hills, 2 homes off the 17 peak number in 2020, which came in June and October. So that, that's looking at 2020, that's great. Mountain View, 2 months of increased new listings. Campbell, significantly over the homes listed in February for the past few years. Los Gatos, that's a nearly 2-year high, right? So we see some growth in San Jose and Palo Alto. Gilroy, very consistent. I mean, this is positive for those buyers out there looking to have a bit of choice, where we see that listings decreasing, meaning that your sellers are going to have even a little bit more power. I was going to say as if they need it, but if you're selling out there, this is wonderful news. Tough on your buyers,
right?
But Monte Sereno peaked at 12 in September. It's kind of been very low since. 4, 3, 2 listings in the month since. Santa Clara can see some higher Februarys, so kind of in the middle. I look back at Santa Clara, the city. Los Altos, however, Februarys have been quite good, so 25 is pretty medium or low for certain. So last February was pretty great in these cities, and so we're going to see maybe we see that pressure build upwards on that pricing, because there's fewer homes to choose from by pretty decent double-digit percentages there. So we'll be back next month to talk about that, but. What does that mean in terms of the common interest market? Look at that, all higher year over year. We just talked about how we don't get those new builds, but what we have in the MLS, 508 for the month of February in common interest Santa Clara County, that's 33%, about 33% over the last 2 Februarys, right? So 2 straight months of increases. There's 3 cities decreased that are not on this list: Saratoga, Gilroy, Palo Alto in that common interest market, but like 1 or 2 homes. So in general, Sunnyvale matching the 2020 peak, which came in September. Mountain View way up over its last February's. Milpitas almost hitting the 2020 peak, which was 34, and that was in July. So right, Milpitas strong. San Jose is much higher than the past 3 Februarys. I mean, again, I don't want to bore everybody. I don't want to go on and on, but these are strong numbers.
Yeah, and maybe this is the sign that those sellers, right, those new sellers want to take advantage of those high prices, right? And they're going to feed the inventory back in again. And maybe then, help to balance out that buyer's market versus seller's market.
gosh, it's hard to imagine that, but it's possible. I mean, we can't
Right.
know what's going to happen going forward, but like Morgan Hill matching a 2-year high of 19, right? I mean, that was August of 2020. I mean, this is really,
It's encouraging.
really encouraging for your buyers for sure,
Yep.
and for a balanced market for sure. Because then you switch to sales to
Oh
list price
boy.
ratio. And I had a note to myself, stop giggling on these videos, but it's just, you see this and you think, wow, you know, we're seeing pre-pandemic, that's 106%, right, at the
Right.
county level. So we hadn't seen that since we left our buildings a year ago. And that's with an all-time high price, right? So we're starting to see that sales to list price ratio creep up, much higher than 2019 ever was. So remember 2018, we saw 109, 111 at the county level. So we're not there, right? But, you know, still starting to see that perk up a bit. And when you look at the sale to list price ratio in the cities, here's where you see it, right? So generally up over 100%. Los Altos Hills luxury market, not unusual. You know, then you start looking, you start drilling down, Mark, and you start saying, well, what about this is unusual, or what's, you know, what's really exceptional? And you say, well, Saratoga had 100% of ask in December, but 109 is the highest ever, which we saw in May of 2018 in that market. 109 in Milpitas is a 3-year high. Gilroy matches the all-time high that we saw in December of 2020. The high of 2020, which we saw in December, I just want to be clear on that. Cupertino at 110 is a 2.5-year high. Morgan Hill, all-time in price, and in sale to list price ratio as well. I mean,
right up in the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, in both, you know, I'm seeing like both the prices and the sale to list price ratio, and that tells you something different than if one's going up and one's going down, right? Because that means maybe buyers are adjusting on one part or the other. But Palo Alto in near 1-year high, so we're seeing things that we saw a year ago, in some cases 2 or 3 years. This is really exceptional for your sellers. There was,
you know, and what I saw on that list, geographically well balanced, right? There's not one side of the valley versus the other side of the valley or something. It's just straight across the whole valley.
Sometimes it's a luxury, you know, to residential kind of thing, but no, I mean, it just depends on where you are. With these, you know, 5 cities decreasing year over year. So
mixed in the middle of all that. Yeah, mixed in the middle of all that green is these little points of red. So strong.
But like Monte Sereno, right, dipped under 100%, but it was an all-time high in January at 110%, right?
Right,
so
right. It's a small adjustment.
Yeah, Mountain View, very consistent. Santa Clara, 10-month high. So I guess the point is that we're just starting to see some of these markets, especially the sales to list price ratio, you know, perk back up to levels we hadn't seen in at least a couple of years. Certainly at the county level. So that's something to keep an eye on. And that's what we're doing in these videos. You know, what is really important that's happening out there. So, you know, we'll see people at those tour meetings and things and talk closed sales, or, you know, broker meetings and things where we come in and talk a little bit more in depth. But when you know, last slide here, increased sale to list price ratio for condos and townhomes, common interest as well, right? So we're seeing this in the common interest market as well. 102% is where the county was. That's the highest we've seen since April of 2020. And when you look at some of these, you know, cities and you dig in specifically, Sunnyvale really consistent between 100 and 103. Milpitas at 105 is a 2.5-year high, right? So that's on the resales. Don't know what those new builds are going for.
Right.
Cupertino at 106 and Los Gatos at 104 matched the 2020 high. So we saw that in March. So we're seeing, you know, some of those highs again come back. Morgan Hill, a 2% drop in price, but a 1% increase in sale to list price. So, you know, sellers are getting their money, Mark. It's tight inventory out there, and you know, that's what we're looking at here for the rest of the you know, the month. I mean, we'll be back in April to talk about March, which is when we start to see these numbers really, you know, generally in the past, 2020 not so much, but in the past we've seen it. So we'll be back in a month to talk about it.
Okay, and I think it's true that 2021, you know, is off to a different start. And you just got done saying it, that, you know, our client, our subscriber, they've got to weave all this stuff together. They've got to, you know, all these different these points that you're delivering to make a statement to be relevant in the marketplace. But that's the value of Aculist. Let Aculist do that for you and provide you with the graphics and the charts and, you know, how to talk about it and how to distribute it as well. That's sort of the brilliance.
Yeah, there are stories, right? So let's, you know, agents have to keep ahead and things. And so let's help by, you know, talking, kind of framing those stories. And so go tell your clients and let us help you out with some of that data.
Yep. Just keep coming back, and we'll tell you, as I said last year, every month is a new chapter. Come on back next month. We got a whole new chapter for you.
Thanks, Mark.
You bet. Thank you, Michelle.
Make sure to check out our pro support page for additional videos on a full range of topics. And don't forget to click that subscribe button on our MLS Listings YouTube page.